A couple of weeks ago, we had a company on, and in Kevin Daisy, and he owns multiple companies and is venturing out into even more companies. I find it fascinating when people can do multiple things and still see success and see these grow. How many companies do you think is too many companies to own? And actually, not just like from a stock perspective, but like actually have some sort of day-to-day presence in.
I don't know, man. That's a tough question. I mean, because I think it comes down to the individual for sure. Some people it's zero, right? Some people it definitely is one, but I think that the ability to delegate and maximize time are certainly two things that you need to be able to do. What's your take?
I don't know. I'm thinking of people that have really well documented processes, and do they need to really be into the nitty gritty? Probably not.
Yeah,
I don't know. I a handful maybe. I don't know. It seems like a handful is a lot, especially in the early stage while you're still probably figuring some of that stuff out. Maybe if you're overcapitalized, that makes things a lot easier. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, if you're raising money, I think anything more than one is going to be super difficult. If you've got one that is, that you've kind of hit scale, so to speak, or if you're happy with it and you're not trying to raise, then that would be, you can kind of let that one coast and then focus on the other one. I don't know. It's a great question.
Yeah. So today's guest, Chris Lyons, is one of those people who owns multiple businesses, has started multiple businesses. Chris, you are you a William & Mary MBA?
Correct. Yes.
So is Tim, right? Tim, you got the MBA there, right? Yeah.
Yep.
And so, I mean, do they teach? Hey, go run multiple business up there. Like, what kind of shop are they running up there? Where they like, it's hard enough to do one, and here you are. You're like, let's go on to like business number 17. It seems like.
I don't think business school planted that seed, but
okay,
it was something that I think hearing you guys talk about the challenges of running multiple businesses, I would definitely say that finding a good mate was super helpful in our ability to juggle multiple businesses. When I got my MBA, I did the night classes for 5 years, and I would drive home from the peninsula to our home in Chesapeake, and I'd hop on the phone with my wife and I'd tell her everything I told her. So we kind of got the 2-for-1 deal with the MBA. And,
nice.
And
I'm sure that helped with remembering. I'm sure that helped with remembering too, because they talk about how you only remember 25% of what you just learned. So then be able to reciting it back is really important. I take a ton of notes when I feel like something is important from that perspective, just so that you do remember and recall it. And so that's interesting. So is she the guru behind the business? Is she the one that wanted to start all these things? Because maybe we should have had her on the show and not you, Chris. I mean, is she the brains behind the operation? I mean, you say your mate is so important in this.
She's a key part, especially so when we had the jewelry business and COVID hit, and we had the governor's orders to close our doors. That was when the dog breeding business was birthed. That was kind of catalyst to, okay, hey, maybe since the government can kind of arbitrarily shut down our business, maybe diversifying in something, that can't be shut down as easily might be something to consider. So that happened in 2020. You hear about COVID kind of starting all this innovation and, entrepreneurship coming out of a negative. This was something positive that came out of that negative.
What year did you graduate from business school, Chris?
2016.
And what were you doing at the time? Were you an entrepreneur or a business owner at that point?
So I was working for a custom home builder in marketing.
Interesting.
Just a small business. Yeah, cutting my teeth in the small business world.
What was Ashley doing then?
Pardon me?
What was Ashley doing then? Your wife?
Stay-at-home mom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
But the jewelry business was started by her out of our home in 2008. So she was doing that on the side. That was kind of always in the background as I, had my entrepreneurial up and down journey. That was something consistent that would always bring in a little bit money when things were up and down.
I'm fascinated. How does one start a jewelry business? I mean, I would think, dude, I know nothing, but I would think that it's got to be capital intensive. So how do you get started so that you can work your way up incrementally to real high value stuff? How does that work?
So we literally built a website. We had a home office. We would only see referrals and friends and their referrals. So we didn't meet with any strangers because of the high security, high risk, and everything was based out of catalogs from suppliers that would allow us to build a relationship with them out of a house and not out of a store. And so our suppliers were limited because not everybody wanted to work with, just an individual. But enough relationships, were able to be formed where we had a pretty nice selection out of a catalog, and you'd come and we'd pick something out and bring it in for you to give us the thumbs up. So it was a couple of visits to buy something, a little bit more steps for our clients, but the lack of overhead made our cost, competitive, very competitive.
What was the difference with, and Tim, before he moved into, I think what you would say a walking traffic, non-destination location, he had this place out by the Virginia Beach courthouse, which I remember when I visited you this place, 7 years ago, maybe. I drove past it. Like, I missed it. It was literally like a house. And so it's interesting. So you guys have a house, then you guys move to a house to run the business out of, basically. Like, what was the decision there? And then how did you ultimately, we're talking about Adele Diamond, the first, business that you guys really had started, at least that I know of. And that is your typical jewelry store, but homegrown. And how did you guys decide, like, okay, I don't want to do this in the house anymore. We're gonna move to a retail part?
It was 100% the kids in the house that pushed us to the home office, so the office outside the house. And you're right, Zach. The building that we were running the business out of was a piece of property that family owned, and it was the rent that was being asked kind of fit the bill with what we could afford. So it was just a stepping stone towards the final business model, which is a small chain now of brick and mortar stores in prime locations.
You know what's funny about that store now? You guys moved out of that location, and I went to it. I had a coffee meeting. It's like a little bakery now, or at least it was 3 years ago. I don't know if it is after COVID and everything, but I was like, oh wait, I've been here. This is funny.
Yeah, and I've been out there supporting that business. Estrella Coffee.
Oh, okay.
I believe it's called. Yeah, they're a good business. I'd check them out.
Yeah. That's an interesting story. Just in the sense of Zack and I, we talk to and interact with dozens, if not hundreds of founders, and everybody looks at that end goal first. And they're like, I can't do anything until I get a bricks and mortar. Whereas hearing what you were able to do just by starting from your home and then working to the point where you have multiple locations, I mean, that's a super valuable lesson for founders out there to hear. Like, what can you do today, and how can you, and then eventually work your way to that end goal. That's super cool.
Yeah.
What in terms of like, how did that? So before the show, before we went live, you had talked about all your jewelry repair gets there. How long did it take for you to bring on someone to do those repairs, or is that something that you and your wife do, or is that just staff that you brought on over time?
So I would say that jewelry stores out there, about half of them outsource the repair work because that's very specialized, and you have to go to school for many years to have that gifting, those skills, and then about half do that work in-house with an employee. So we did that for about 5 or 6 years outsourced, and we got to a point where we wanted to really maintain quality control and the speed of and the flexibility of putting this repair in front of this repair, and rush needs and everything for clients. So we brought that in-house in about 2019, right when we opened our second location in Greenbrier. We brought that repair person in-house, and it's really been able to take our business to the next level, being able to tell clients, hey, work's done on site. Even able to send a client to lunch and then, come back and their ring, is sized, or their jewelry is repaired. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another example of incremental growth. I love it.
Well, so what do? Just run that number. You realize you're paying this guy what you could end up. You're using the outsourced guy or girl, and you realize, okay, I'm paying them, 5x what I should be. I could hire someone like this to do this full time, and you just look at the numbers.
Exactly. The math didn't lie, and it was very much a business decision, as well as a benefit that when you're leaving your valuables somewhere, for them to be able to say, hey, it's going to stay on premises, it's not going to go out of our hands. That is increasing the trust factor with a client, and in the jewelry business with irreplaceable heirlooms, the trust factor is a huge thing.
I do think that businesses hire the wrong person too quickly from a full-time position, and I think the way that you've done this is something that people really should listen to and say, okay, hey, I need this person sometimes, so I should sometimes pay them, not I should pay them all the time when I need them sometimes. And I think that's a big lesson learned that people would see more success from. Yeah, it might cost you a little more in the long run, but obviously it's come full circle, and you had enough demand to do that. So
yeah, if there's a way to ease yourself into a relationship with someone that could be full-time, always try before you buy. Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, like, it seems like when the shopping malls are kind of they're just kind of dead anyway, at least around our area. Whereas you see all these corner, the intersection stores that used to be the K's and Jared's and all that stuff. All that stuff is they're going by the wayside. Is that because they carry too much inventory? Is it because that you all provide a better experience? The smaller run stores, you're thriving, and it seems like they have challenges. Is there any rhyme or reason for that?
I think we've definitely, as a smaller business, benefited from the cultural push in the last several years towards shop local and kind of everything like American Express is doing, and you guys, and all the organizations that are promoting, supporting, your local businesses. That's helped us. And I think the chains have a difficulty because of the size of their business, being quick to turn on a dime with trends. So jewelry business is a fashion business. Fashion businesses are all about staying up with the new trends, and so we're able to get a new style of merchandise in our store much quicker than a big chain with 4,000 stores is able to, just because of our size. And so I think in the fashion business, smaller and more nimble can be an advantage, and we've definitely played to that advantage.
To Tim's point about shopping malls, you have been at home, the next location, which is out by Virginia Beach, definitely a destination location. No one's really going there unless they knew about you before. Then you moved to Hilltop. Then you open another one in Greenbrier. Now you're opening one in the Lynn Haven Mall in November of 2022. Is Lynn Haven Mall the only mall that's actually doing well here? How do you decide to go to a place where it seemingly is dying? Because I went into MacArthur Mall the other day. I used that parking lot to go somewhere, and I walked through the mall, and it's there's nothing there. Basically, right? Yeah. All they have is a little kiosk that people are annoying you to try something, right? And that's it. Nothing else in there. They did have a jewelry store, by the way. It was open. How do you decide that this shopping mall, which seems like is dying, not necessarily just shopping malls in general, how do you decide that, hey, we're going to invest a lot of money to do a build out here to do this, because you have nice locations, we're going to invest in more inventory. Is that a risk? How did you figure out all that so that you don't screw yourself?
We were weighing between a shopping mall and a shopping center, like we have been doing. So we did kind of have to weigh pros and cons, and we went with the shopping mall. And I think it ties back to the popularity of shopping, at local smaller businesses. The Lynn Haven Mall's best pitch to us was that they are trying to incorporate as much local flavor into their mix of retailers as possible. So not just be a mall full of chain stores that you can kind of go to the outlet mall and see, or you can go to MacArthur Mall and see, but actually have some unique local businesses that give more of a local experience to the shoppers of the mall. And that was part of their pitch to us. Like we have chains in our mall right now that are jewelers. We don't have a local jeweler. And they were able to work with us to make it affordable as a local business. And they gave us examples of other local businesses in the mall that make their mall a little more unique. So I think it's all about, the mall model has major challenges, but I think that their strategy is going to help them sustain, further into the future than some malls that are, like you said, are dying around here.
Yeah, it's sad in the sense of, as I'm listening to this, because it's just multiple changes happening at multiple levels in terms of like customers are changing their habits. You're evolving to make sure that you're meeting those challenges, and then malls have their set of changes that they're trying to stay relevant. So it's really interesting from that standpoint.
From a clothes perspective, remember 10 years ago, we wouldn't buy something that we didn't go to a store at, though, right? And now I feel like most people just buy all their stuff online. And I think that's part of the evolution that you're talking about. But with jewelry, it seems like that hasn't really turned yet. Is that, and I feel like that's kind of what you're getting at, Tim. Like there's some things, like I'll buy my watch because it's Garmin and it's whatever, you'll buy your Apple Watch or your iWatch, whatever it's called. Like that seems to be okay and it's a normal. But if you're trying to go buy a Rolex somewhere, you probably want to touch it. You want to look at it. If you're buying some earrings and they're expensive, you don't want to buy that on Amazon. You want to go to a store and actually physically touch an engagement ring, whatever, etc. Like, why hasn't that turned yet when it seems like everything else has?
I definitely think it's exactly what you just said, Zach. People want to touch and feel a piece of jewelry to know that they're getting what they are spending, because it's a very small item for a very high price tag. Yeah, I'm not going to.
That's fair.
About that.
Yeah.
And so, when you're spending something, thousands of dollars for something you hope your significant other or yourself is going to enjoy for 10 or 20 or 50 years, that's a big decision. And just like, I don't think you're going to buy, your next pet online, pick out your puppy from a picture. Like you want to see it, touch it, feel it, and make sure that there's a connection there. And a lot of our female clients, like they'll feel a connection with a piece of jewelry and say, hey, it's in my hand. I love this. This is what I want. And so I don't try to understand all of it. I just work with it.
So the key is don't go to the jewelry store so the girl can't touch the piece of jewelry to fall in love. Yeah, got it.
Maybe not bring her.
Got it. Okay. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, Zach. I mean, in terms of how did you feel about the overall experience with the Aura process?
So my wife just got an Aura ring, Chris, which is like a tracking thing.
Yeah.
Man, you know her.
Yeah.
And she actually brought it up. The process was, well, see, I feel like it's very different. Like you're picking 4 colors and you got to figure out your size. That's about it. Right. And so from that perspective, I feel like it's like a Garmin watch. It's basically just another everyday. I don't even think of it as a piece of jewelry, even though it is a piece of jewelry. But that process is pick a color, and then we're going to send you this thing, and you guys figure out what size it is.
Yeah, they send like a 3D printed sizing kit. Yeah. And then you wear that piece of plastic for a day. And then once you figure out your size, then you put that into your online profile.
I do think she would have liked there to have been half sizes and not just full sizes. So that was one, because she was like, okay, like what hand am I going to put it on? Mm-hmm. And so certain fingers were different sizes, and so she had to figure out, okay, like, where am I going to be in this situation? But I mean, it was seamless, it was quick, it was easy. But I feel like it is slightly different than, oh, I'm going to go buy this custom piece of jewelry or fancy piece of jewelry, where this is like, okay, get the silver, your size, whatever.
I'm just thinking about it from a first principle standpoint. Like, if that's a model that works, will we see more online jewelers or more e-commerce style where they can just send a size and kit for a particular model of jewelry and then ship out whatever size that you decide upon? I don't know.
You know, your example, Zach, was perfect, because even though they simplified the process as much as possible with 4 options and then basic, sizes, there was an evaluation process that she had to go through. What finger I'm going to wear it on? Do they have half sizes? That a human being in front of her talking through that would have been helpful. So I think that's the difference buying in person is you've got an experienced consultant that, helps her through those decisions that you get online when you're buying online.
Yeah, I think their push on that is 30-day money day back or whatever. If you hate it, send it back. We'll give you a refund. We'll resize it. There's a way. But at some point, you're just like, some people don't want to do returns, right? Even if the thing is as simple as put it in a box, put a sticker on it, and put it in. Some people don't want to do that. I don't know why people don't want to do that. I think it's easy, but there is that's customer service, right? Amazon historically, as long as you're not gifted an item, it's very easy to return something, right? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, because people are buying cars now online and just delivering them there. And so it's weird that jewelry is that one thing that still hasn't turned. And we'll see if it will. I never thought people would buy clothes the way that they do now, but they do.
Yeah. Well, even that, there was some, I just, like, Amazon was super smart in the sense of innovative. Yeah, it seems like you can drop off your returns anywhere now. UPS stores, Kohl's, or whatever.
They make $1.40. UPS stores make $1.40 per transaction. We learned this here with Eddie. So when someone has a return and they drop it off at the UPS store, Chris, the UPS store gets $1.40 from Amazon to distribute that return.
Wow. It's a good income stream, because there's always a line of people like waiting to just drop off a package there.
Yeah. And like they have like their just a separate register just for Amazon returns, at least at the UPS store that I go to.
They don't at mine. And they also don't upsell me like Eddie's store does, which is what they should be doing. Like, hey, can we sell you something else? But I mean, how many, there's got to be 50 to 100 of those things a day. I mean, that's easy money for them. They're already open.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and it's just a matter of scanning the QR code or the barcode or whatever, and then you're good to go. Chris, I'm curious, have you heard or what your take is on? So Zach, like there's companies like carbon capture companies, and what they do is they suck the carbon out of the air, and they get enough carbon, and then they compress that carbon to like manufacture diamonds through carbon capture out of the air. And it's like, from what I hear, the same quality diamond, that kind of thing, but it's just an accelerated man-made process, opposite of, like, it's not like cubic zirconia or anything like this. I mean, it's actual carbon, which is made from, that's what diamonds are made from. Have you heard about any of this, Chris?
Yeah, so we carry those.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because it's been a big disruptor in the jewelry industry over the past 3 years. It was kind of always a fringe thing that consumers really didn't accept. But once a couple of big name jewelry stores picked up lab created or man grown diamonds, and they are, like you said, not supposedly, but actually the real thing, the same thing. It caught on, and so now I would say for every one natural diamond we sell one man-made.
Interesting.
Diamond. Yeah. It's
because they're cheaper.
In just a few years, they went 50-50.
Cheaper?
They are. They are. They used to not be, as the early adopters, were purchasing they were kind of paying for the factories and the overhead. But now that scale production has started, costs have went down quite a bit, and they continue going down.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's like the other thing that's crazy, Zach, is like as like the younger generation comes up, and the environment and carbon reduction, and big companies can get carbon credits, as they move towards carbon neutral operations. It's like that's just where the market is going. So it's like a win-win-win across the board.
Well, younger kids are more frugal too. It seems like they don't care about money the same way that us old people do.
What we're finding is that they're actually spending just as much or more and getting a bigger diamond. So
right,
instead
of
like
lying
being,
to me.
The size of their mom's diamond, it's now double the size, and so they're walking around with these big rocks on.
But that's interesting. That's super. Wow. So that's like almost like parity 1-to-1. That was fast. I did.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's been a big change that we've been able to turn quicker, and a local large diamond company just started carrying lab grown diamonds that we've been carrying for 3 years now, and really, I would say, led the area in adopting and leading in sales of that one category, just because our size could permit that rapid adjustment.
Fascinating.
Anything else about Adele or the jewelry industry that we should talk about before we move on to business number 17?
No.
Or maybe what did you learn from Adele to start another business? Is it getting easier?
Yes, absolutely. The iterations of learning that we've gone through, from anywhere from business management software to finding the right CPA team to work with or legal team to work with, all that learning curve and all that, education, you're able to transfer right over to the next business, which helps the startup just immensely hit the ground running, and not make, even if it's a completely different industry, not make the same mistakes. And so, like most people, everyone wants you to learn from their mistakes and, take their advice, but usually you have to trial and error yourself.
Yeah.
So
there's a Napoleon Hill book that talks about that, right? Where it's like, why wouldn't you take lessons from someone else and get three steps ahead, so you don't have to go through that, that misery. And so if you really think about it, you're just learning from yourself in that situation.
Yeah.
So when you announced that you were, what are you, CMO, CFO? What is it of Oats? What is it?
Yeah, marketing.
Marketing. So when you announced that it was your CMO, it was on April 1st or right around April 1st. And I've known you for, 10 years, 8 years. When you wrote that, I was like, this is April Fool's. There's no way he's in this in the cannabis industry. And it was real. And so I didn't know that about you. I was shocked. Then you started posting about it a lot. And I was like, all right, well, this kid ain't lying. Here I am, as the king of what I think is April Fool's jokes. This past year I told people that I became a professional athlete or something like that, or triathlete. And they believed it.
Yeah.
1 year I told them I was getting my MBA at Virginia Tech. People just believe anything they see on the internet, but it was a real thing for you. And so just walk us through the origins of getting into this. I really was shocked that you were into the whole cannabis industry. Is there just give us the 411 or whatever.
So going back to our earlier conversation about when I was finishing up my MBA and working for a local builder, I think that was when I was starting it. One of my coworkers at that company, we stayed in contact, and he was the gentleman that founded this industrial hemp company. I invested in it back in 2020, and then fast forward to 2022, Ashley was coming back into the workforce. We all her kids go now to a local private school. She was teaching them, so she had this availability to take her baby back over that she started back in 2008. So she jumped in to leading Adele, and I transitioned to, and it was several months of a process for sure. I transitioned to joining my good friend Ashton in this industrial hemp company. So early this year, it was really recent, really fresh. I'm still in that learning curve.
What is an industrial hemp company? What does that consist of?
So, hemp and marijuana are two identical plants with different chemical makeups. And so if you take the marijuana side of the industry off the shelf and just look at hemp, then hemp for industrial uses, grown outdoors, you can make bioplastics, biofuel, plywood, and clothing, tens of thousands of materials from the hemp plant. When you're growing, when you're in that supply chain for industrial use, you're considered in the industrial hemp industry. So we are at the very, very beginning of that supply chain, growing in greenhouses seed for industrial use to be planted outdoors. But our growing is all done in a very engineered process indoors. And we're just growing the plants for the seed, specifically to harvest the seed out of the flowers of the plant.
And then you send that to someone else, they buy it, and then they do whatever they want, make one of those 10,000 things with it.
Yeah, farmers somewhere in the country are buying our seed for their next crop. Usually sales occur in April, May, and June, and they're planting them and then growing their crop and then processing it into some sort of final material. It could be a shirt I'm wearing, or could be a hemp brick, it could be a piece of plywood, depending on the part of the plant that you process and create something out of. Very interesting.
Is it? Yeah, this is something. I mean, I know nothing about this, so it's just I have so many questions. Like, is this something that has because hemp has been around for forever? I mean, as I understand it, Native Americans, leverage this stuff for textiles and whatnot. So is this something that has always been legal, or is this something that has recently changed in order to really commercialize this?
Yeah. So in the 30s, paper companies lobbied for hemp to become made illegal in the country because it was competing with their business. And there was a couple of attempts to reintroduce it into our industrial supply chain in the 70s and the 80s, but not until 2018 was a bill proposed and passed federally in all 50 states. It was the U.S. Farm Bill 2018 that permitted industrial hemp to be grown and sold in the United States, separate from marijuana legislation, which is state by state. This was a federal law that was passed 4 years ago.
Which is what you produce could also not become one of those 10,000 products and become marijuana? Do people buy it for that reason? No.
No. It's just genetics don't work.
Yeah.
Man,
you have a farm somewhere, right? You have to buy a big piece of land and do all that.
Virginia Beach, Missouri, Colorado, farms across the country.
But how much of your time do you spend a day just educating people? I would imagine that's got to be a pretty large process.
Half my day educating myself, and then the other half passing on what I've learned.
Oh, so back to your roots of the MBA, driving back home, talking to Ashley about it. Now you're just telling other people about, hey, I just read this on the internet.
Yeah. So going to our farm sites and talking with our growing team and our agronomist and the guys, doing the day-to-day work has been very helpful for me to then go back to the office and kind of digest and disseminate what we're doing, because a lot of the information, just like with anything, but especially in this new industry, a lot of the information on the internet is conflicting. And so you can't just Google answers and have some sort of verifiable data. It's so much of it out there is just, someone's limited experience, someone's opinion. And so even industry standards are not yet established across the country. So they use the term, the Wild West, like this industry is just all over right now, and no systems or processes really have been established in scale, because everybody's kind of doing their own thing, and the industry hasn't melded and connected together in a meaningful way yet. And so that's in some of the questions we talked about prior to the interview, one of the goals we have is to not just grow our product and sell our seed, but help connect the supply chain together that will make us successful ultimately. Because if everybody's not working together to efficiently bring the product to the end consumer, then us at the beginning of the chain are not going to get sales of our seed. So a lot of work is ahead of us and ahead of the whole industry to kind of team up and work together, because it's so new.
One question that I've always had, I'm sorry, Zack, is so like back in the day, I mean, like this area, Virginia, North Carolina, we were just very known for tobacco. We have the right soil for tobacco. Does that translate over to hemp as well?
We're not one of the best areas of the country with our humidity levels to grow hemp. Hemp was, fun historical fact, the first crop that was grown back in the early 1600s by the guys that eventually founded America. That was what we came and planted. Everybody thinks tobacco. They kind of get that question wrong.
Interesting.
An overwhelming majority of businesses are not the Wild West. Your jewelry business, tens of thousands of jewelry businesses are in the world, right? So there is somewhere someone to talk to about that. But with this business, because it's so new and there's not a lot to go off of, I mean, where do you get help? Where do you find this stuff out to be able to make it a little less risky and not so expensive and scary?
So what we've been learning is a lot of the research universities across the country have been doing research, although consumer wise, not a product they can buy and sell, but grants by the government to do research in the hemp industry. Some of the contacts we found have 8, 9, 10 years under their belt already of research, and so we've been able to partner up with several. Virginia Tech, University of Kentucky, to be able to glean some of their data on the economics of the industry, as well as the biological engineering side.
And in terms of as you're working on this, on refining the seed, is that something that that's a continuous evolution as well, that you try to increase the quality of the seed over time?
Absolutely. The quality as well as the output of seed per plant. So as we're working to grow on scale and sell on a larger scale, the amount of yield per plant is very, can be a competitive advantage we're working to build up. You can get anywhere from 1,000 to 5,000 seed on average for one plant grown in a greenhouse. But we're working on being able to do 3, 5, 10 multiple of that by how the plant is grown. So that's something that I've been learning about that's very, very interesting. Yeah,
I've heard some local businesses that are doing the opposite, that are growing the marijuana side of it, and how capital intensive that side is and how difficult it is. And so people are like, oh, I'm just going to, I'm going to start a pot farm, and I'm going to start the business. Well, it's very, apparently from a just a business perspective, there is like a state fee from something like that. And then just to grow it is very expensive too. I mean, are you seeing any of that those similar costs? Like, where do you have to keep, you said you invest a little bit into the business yourself. Are you guys constantly on the raise? Are you guys constantly raising funds for this? Like, where are you on the aspect of financials of this?
Yes, so we are constantly on the raise. The second generation of greenhouse that we have designed is about $250,000 building, and you can throw up a greenhouse for $30,000 or $40,000. That's very basic. So as time has progressed, we've understood even further the capital requirements of further growth, and we are constantly raising. Yes, I took a break from raising to have this conversation. I'll be right back to it.
So is this something that that you take the lessons learned from the jewelry business directly into this business in terms of how you scale, or are you guys just going all out, just raising and scaling as fast as you can?
It's an entirely different animal, and the different than our brick and mortar business, where really to grow it's all about additional locations. We can grow and scale in an entirely different manner with new streams of income and new contacts across the globe, and just kind of renting out a little bit bigger of an office. And so that's kind of what drew me to this startup outside of our existing family company, Adele, was the scalability and the rate of growth potential was large. Great question. Yeah.
Oh, Zach,
what's on the whiteboard behind us? Anything secret?
Yep.
You should probably say no, just so we don't.
No, nothing secret. I share an office with our head of sales, and so I think it's a bunch of different sales leads he's working.
Got it.
Yeah.
So in our onboard process, when we're getting guests on, we ask a question like, "What's something interesting about you?" I've known you, like we said, I think I met you in 2015, right? 2015, maybe even before then. Well, you had gone to didn't you go to a Start Norfolk?
Absolutely, several.
Yeah, multiple. So probably even before that. So you guys were probably in the same room together.
Yeah, I know that we've been in. Yeah.
So maybe I knew this and I just forgot, but you were a D1 athlete.
Yeah.
What did you do?
Cross country at Liberty.
Really?
Kicking butt in the track world. Yeah.
What distance?
The 800.
That's hard.
Yeah, that's tough.
It's a
tough race.
Sprint.
What was your best time?
1:51 minute and 51 seconds.
That seems really fast.
Well, I mean, that's a 340 mile. If
so, we were in the Big South Conference. I think they've now graduated to a more competitive conference, but this was at the IC4A Indoor Championships up in Boston on a banked indoor track, a 200-meter track. It was my fastest time I ran. So that was a good race.
Is that something? Do you prefer a 200-meter track versus a 400-meter track?
No, you're getting dizzy almost.
Right.
You're just constantly turning. Yeah.
I would think that doing 8 laps would be more difficult than running 2.
Yeah, I never bested that on an outdoor track.
Or 4 laps versus 2. Yeah.
What's the new one at Virginia Beach?
What's
that distance?
Sports complex.
Yeah.
I think that's 200. It's standard for an indoor track to be 200 meters.
Oh, is it really?
Is it banked as well?
I haven't been to it.
That's the one at the conference center?
Yeah, I haven't been.
Yeah, it's got blue track. That's all I know.
Yeah, the better ones are banked. I think they went all out on that complex and put a bank track in there.
Yeah, I think in order to do compete NCAA, like any big events, it has to be banked, or else you're not eligible to host anything.
Yeah.
Wow. Are you still into athletics in some capacity?
I'm almost 40, And so to be able to compete in that masters level, I have worked really hard to get back into shape so I can start competing again at 40. So I've got about 6 months to go. I've got a trainer. I'm at a gym 4 days a week.
What gym?
Weights I'm running. Natural Bodies Fitness, local business.
Is that is the guy's name Chad?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw him at a Marketers Anonymous once. Is he your trainer too?
He is, yes.
Cool.
Yeah, good guy.
Yeah, this is the time to jump, man. If you can be on the early side of the age bracket.
Yeah. I think probably the guys winning the competitions are that 40 and 41 because let's face it, like our bodies are going downhill.
when I was a coach of a swim team, we were always good when my best swimmers were at the top. So they were usually like 13, 14, 11, 12. It was crazy how when those kids were 12, when those kids were 14, we would win, and when they weren't, we wouldn't win as much. And so it is interesting how that works. In this case, being younger is better. But
yeah,
kudos for you.
Right, Zach?
Yeah, I have not been running at the extent of where I was about a year ago. I was running like 45 miles a week last year, and I'm not. Yeah, no, I have no races booked at this point.
It makes a big difference, man. If you got something you're training for, that's all the difference in the world.
It's true.
Yeah.
But the same deal, man. Like people totally like, dude, yeah. Like when I was trying to qualify for Boston, I was like, man, I had to age up so that I could be on that younger age bracket because, man, it's tough as opposed to when you're at the upper end.
So you run too, Tim? Cool.
I do, yeah. Yeah, thank goodness for the cooler temperatures, man. Makes such a big difference out there. Man. That
absolutely.
Going back to the heat and the humidity, man. That's a grind.
Yeah.
So what? And also, what? 5 kids. How? So it sounds like a lot of communication going on internally within the household to keep everything moving in the right direction.
Yes, we run our life by the family Google Calendar. Otherwise, I don't get anywhere on time.
Well, I mean that's super important. I tell everybody I live and die by my calendar, and most of the time I'm living. But man, there's sometimes and we tell our kids if it's not on the calendar, then it's just not happening, and so that's tough.
My daughter is cheering for her high school right now, and she always tells her mom and I the day of or the day before, like, hey, there's a football game tonight. I'll be cheering. Like, put it on the calendar, sweetie. I need to know. But yeah, 5 kids at home, 4 to 16. They're all going to the same school, which one drop off, one pick up. We moved out there near Zack to be near the school because extracurricular activities and friends and yeah, it just was. We were driving out from Virginia Beach to Chesapeake 3 or 4 times a day, just killing just that gas bill. Yeah, so now it's just over the bridge, loving it. Yeah, but they're our motivation, to work so hard is to really give them the best opportunities, set them up for success in life. So
Yeah, and toying with any what's next? What's any new ideas on the horizon? Or are you just standing pat with?
I'll be a lifelong entrepreneur, and there are a few ideas that when the capital comes and is available, we'll kick off some new things.
So are you just a lifelong curious learner that you just move from thing to thing, or is what's your secret?
Absolutely lifelong learner and always wanting to see what new difference we can make in a market. Kind of disrupting a market is always exciting to do. And if I'm not excited about it, passionate about it, I don't want to do it anymore. So the pursuit of that is a big driver for me.
One thing that I as we were talking, I recalled several conversations with you, how you tried getting Adele more online and to do more of the transactions online. Did that ever start to work, or did you just move away off of it? Like, because we talked about how people buy a lot of stuff online now. You guys are mostly in person, in store, but you had ideas and you saw that could be the market. Whatever happened with that? Did you just pivot off of it? Like, what was kind of the situation there?
Yeah, when I met you and we were in that that office house, we started the business as or kind of scaled it to be an e-commerce business exclusively. And the pivot really was opening up a store, realizing that we couldn't really get traction to sell what our specialty was, which was bridal jewelry, engagement rings, wedding bands online. Most of the jewelry that was selling successfully online was like $200, $300 and below. And our niche, was engagement rings. So we've continued. We pivoted our e-commerce platform to Shopify back in 2017 or 18, and put all our products up there. And we occasionally get sales through our website, maybe once a week. But the push has definitely been expanding in brick and mortar, and just keeping our online presence sufficient.
A lot of money put into that, though.
Yeah, a lot of money went down the tube.
Speaking of a lot of money, I'm just curious, is it still, what's the standard now with engagement rings? What was the marketing push initially? 1 month salary or something like that?
3 months.
3.
Well, that's what I'm like, dude, I've been married 25 years now. I'm so like, things have gone up obviously since then. So 3 months, huh?
It was 3 when I got mine in 15.
Yeah. That people still come in and talk about that. That's
was that made up by the industry?
Of course.
Absolutely. Yeah. No hardworking man ever walked into the store and said, I think 3 months is about right.
Right. But man, it caught on. I mean, it's like, it's just wow. I don't know. It's wild.
Yeah, caught on because happy wife, happy life. Yes. They realized
Yeah. Spoken like a true married man.
Hey, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Pinterest in like the year of like 2013 for somehow posting a picture that my wife put on some pin wall or whatever. I go to Chris in 2015. I said, this is what my wife wants. Didn't have to have a conversation with her. I knew that was the one. Showed him a picture, and we got the damn ring. That's how it happened. Yep. You don't remember that?
Yeah.
So did you sneak another ring in that you would wear on that finger to get the right size and all that stuff? How'd you work those details out?
I don't remember. I don't remember how we figured that out. And it might have gotten whatever size. Yeah. We might have done something with that afterwards. I don't remember. It fit her that day. I know that. I mean, whether or not that was the absolute best fit, I don't recall.
Usually it's not. We always throw in one ring sizing for free because about 60% of the time the guy's wrong. He'll say, "Oh,
I feel like maybe I asked her mom, or like I went into her rings or something, or like I went into her email to see what size ring she might have bought. I don't know. I somehow I figured it out. I feel like it was pretty close. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
7 years. I don't know. So in that situation, knowing that this is such a personal and important scenario for people, I mean, how often are people screwing it up? How often are people guessing wrong, and like there's a return in that? Like, what's the policy on there? How do you not screw yourself in that from a customer service perspective? Because the guys, I think, are ultimately trying to do the right thing, the nice thing, and sometimes it just doesn't work from a ring size. The girl doesn't like it, whatever it might be. Like, how do you guys deal with that scenario?
So we have one of our brand partners gives a 1-year exchange policy on the setting, up to 1 year if the buyer gets it wrong for their partner. And That is rarely used, but when we do use that benefit, it's a lifesaver because the worst thing is the recipient of the ring saying, "Oh, I was thinking something a little different," and the buyer having to pony up another couple of $1,000s. So that's something that is unique in the industry, and occasionally it's a lifesaver. But usually we work with the buyer to make sure that they have some sort of guidance in there. That if they come in and say, "I have no clue what they want, I'm just going to come up with something myself," we really kind of discourage that and encourage them to find the best friend, the mom, the sister, somebody that can lead them. And so that's part of, again, coming in and working with a professional is we save you from yourself sometimes and from making a poor decision.
It's almost fascinating to me that it's you would think that if you're willing that you're going to take a step that's that big, you would know a little something about what you're what
but
they
it's
like.
the most unique piece of jewelry that they probably own, right? And then they want it to look a certain way. I mean, I think it was I think what I would have chosen had I not had that help from Pinterest, I would have guessed wrong. So I can totally see that scenario. I mean, I know what colors to go by, right? Like I know what colors she doesn't like, but man, but you guys made it simple and easy. So I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
What's something we haven't talked about that you want to talk about?
The doodle business.
Yeah. How'd that go?
Let's talk puppies.
Yeah.
Right?
You mentioned.
Yeah.
And what are your breeds of dogs?
A black lab and a beagle, both from a rescue.
Okay, black lab. So we can make some labradoodles.
So that's what your business? That's what they do. You breed crossbreed with poodles.
My mother-in-law, when my wife was growing up, bred poodles, and so that so in COVID when we were having kind of retail disruptions with the pandemic and everything, this was an idea that came from her. We flew out to South Dakota to pick up a poodle, and we had planned on bringing the dog back on the plane, but at the last minute they said, at the airport, they said, "Hey, your paperwork is not correct and her weight is off or something, so she can't get on the plane." So we ended up renting a car and driving straight back from South Dakota to Virginia Beach with our first dog in like April or May of 2020, right in the middle of the worst of the pandemic, and kicked off this additional business. Yeah, Haven's Doodles. So
interesting.
It's been
I swear, like within the last, I don't know, year or two, in our neighborhood, like everybody's got a golden doodle. I mean, it's just like they are just everywhere. So we're golden retriever people. We like more golden than we do the doodle, but I definitely see the benefits in the attraction to the crossbreeding with the poodles.
Yeah, when everybody was at home, they were either fixing up their house or looking for companionship and purchasing puppies. So it seemed like the market was showing a trend for dog sales and then specifically for doodles. And so we did our research and then said this is something we're going to try. And my sister-in-law got involved. She kind of runs our social media as well as the birthing process. And part of moving out to Chesapeake was having space and having a garage, and to run the business. And so that continues to grow, and I don't think we're gonna let that one go for a while. I think we'll let that.
So even though it was started because people were at home during the pandemic, you have seen that the demand is still there when people are not at home in the same way that they are.
Yes, for a high quality, well-bred dog with the testing of health and everything. Just like anything, if you you can even get into an industry that's not necessarily strong, but have a strong business proposition, a strong business model, and find success. So I think as long as we stick to the core values of having a high quality product at a great price, then that customer base we established when it was a peak trend will continue referring us and giving us business as that frenzy dies down, because it has died down, but it's still going well.
But the supply and demand, if you think about it, I mean, there's only so many that you're producing. I don't know what the right word is, breeding.
Yes.
So you only have to sell to so many. So from that perspective, it's probably helpful. So
yeah, 8 to 12 dog litters and all the puppy buyers across the country, and there's a whole business of flight nannies that will nanny your puppy from Norfolk International. A lot of times they're employees of the airline industry. They'll fly your puppy to wherever the buyer is for a few $100s, and so
as long as they have the right paperwork and you're not stuck in South Dakota and then have to drive to Virginia Beach,
yes,
of course.
Yeah, they're a pro at that. So I think most of our sales have been outside the state, the majority.
Wow. Well, it's been quite the journey for you. I'm interested in what the next 7 years look like for you. I don't know what else. Maybe you're going to start breeding dinosaurs, bring them back to life. I don't know. It'll be quite interesting. I'm looking forward to the next 7 years of what's next for you guys, and continued success.
Yeah, thank you so much for the conversation today and having me on the show.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
Absolutely.